Hey, what's up? This is André from RAC, and I'm doing the Future Music and Music Radar Sample Challenge. This was actually really fun. So I don't usually use samples at all. This is all kind of new territory for me. I mean, I've done some stuff in the past, but nothing like this. One thing I wanted to mention, in the brief, they say that you can add up to one new audio recording and one new software instrument, and I actually decided not to. I kind of enjoyed the limitation, just like, let's try to be creative with it and not worry about it too much. And before I do that, I'm going to turn off my notifications so you don't hear that. Hold on. Okay, moving over to Ableton. I think I'll just play through it once, and then I'll go through the samples and kind of explain what I did. And keep in mind, this is maybe like a couple hours of work. So I've actually been into some lo-fi house recently. I mean, if you want to call that a genre. I've been really into the style, and like it's like kind of like it's nothing too terribly dancey, but it still has like a pretty strong beat. And I've just sort of been into it lately. So and that one piano sample really kind of inspired me. So I figured I'd start there and just kind of mess around. So this is based on the acoustic piano sample. So I'm just gonna pull this up. So I pitched, this one is just pretty standard. It's just pitched, it's just the actual sample. And then this next one, I pitched it down 5 steps, and then had one go an octave up above that. So it's kind of just like always on this loop going. I think it kind of stays the same the whole time now. And as a counterpart to that, I also added the reverse, so in the stereo field, so you can kind of hear it on the right side. It's a subtle thing, but it just kind of gives it a little bit more movement to something that's like just a piano stab. Okay, so I also added this the shower sound, which I thought was a funny sample. It's pretty low in the mix, but I wanted it to basically sound like rain, so like it's kind of like a rainy day Portland vibe kind of a thing, I guess. And I also added this radio scan sample that came in the group, but I reversed it and pitched it down. It's just to add some kind of ambience. Okay, and this melody, I sampled one note from the piano riff sample, so it's this one here. Let me see if I can play the whole thing, actually. I think I caught like one of those notes in there, and then just like basically sampled it using Ableton sampler. Maybe let me dig in here real quick. So I think let me. It's such a quick little note that I really had to kind of like finesse it here. So this is just like a little melody that I wrote basically on top of that. I just wanted something kind of like as a counterpart, basically. Before I get into the drums, because that's a little more complicated, I'm gonna. Oh well, I guess I did this high-pitched piano, I think. Yeah. Okay, so that's that, and then I have another one, I think doing pitched up, maybe, like pan to the left. Okay, let me show you. I took the fretless bass sample. I just took the first note and then put it into a sampler, and then I can do something like... And as like as just something additional in there, I also added the synth ping. Just like a rhythmical thing to kind of just switch it up, basically. Let me show you the bass and the drums. Yeah, nothing too crazy. Also, towards the end, I have this. So I changed the melody a little bit in this section just to change it up, and I'm using the synth ping as well. That just one note hit. Okay, let's get into the drums. So this is maybe where I do things a little bit differently than most people. Oh yeah, bongo, I actually ended up not using that. Okay, let me open this up a bit so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so I created a drum rack. Let's open that up. And I basically just loaded a bunch of different samples like into the drum rack, you know, the 808 kick, 909 kick, the drum loop kick. Well, I basically chopped up that drum loop and added it in there, and then like kind of slowed the attack, so it's more just I'm just catching the, you know, that first. It's more to give it some air, basically. Let me solo the kick. So this is the combination. Again, I'm not going for anything like too like powerful. It's just kind of like something there. I love the 909 clap, but I had to, yeah, I pitched it down, I think. Yeah, I did a little bit. Okay, so the way that I use drum racks is maybe a little bit different than most people. So I create subchains within the drum rack. So basically I have a subchain for kicks, for snares / claps, and then for hi-hats. And this is just like an organizational thing. It's so like if I need to add like any specific effect, for example, like I think on the, like especially that drum loop, there was like a little bit too much. Here, let me show you. Yeah, I just had a little bit too much low end when I just wanted the air, so I kind of EQ'd that over here. Let's see if did I do anything here. I EQ'd the high end out of the 909, which I usually do anyway, because I don't like the high end in the 909. The 808, just the 808, you know, it's great. See if I did anything to the snare or the clap. No, not really. Okay. Hi-hats also. I pitched them down a little bit. Again, I was talking about that lo-fi house thing. It's like kind of typical in that sound where there's like a, yeah, it's just like a pitch down kind of weird, like kind of grungy type of hi-hat. That's the only way I can describe it. Slightly distorted, you know, like DJ Seinfeld, Ross from Friends, stuff like that. So this is stuff that I maybe wouldn't normally do for like an RAC track or anything like that, but you know, whatever, I'm just having fun. Thought about using that, I don't think I did. Okay, but you'll notice that the drum rack is actually muted. So this is what the drum rack, this is what it sounds just naturally. So I'm not really doing any kind of mixing there. What I'm doing is I'm creating these other tracks, setting them to input, and then going, selecting the drum rack here, and then it gives you this whole massive list of stuff so you can pull different like different elements from that drum rack. So in this case, I'm pulling the kicks from post mixer. So I get like, I basically get to, you know, solo the kick stuff basically. Like all the 3 kicks always combined. And then I added just a little bit of distortion here with the XLN RC20. It's one of my favorite plugins. The clap also, I think there's also, yeah, also RC20 here. So it's the same idea with the claps. It's like it's basically like pulling from that drum rack and just like pulling that item out of the drum rack, and then I can mix it here. So it's not really coming out of the drum rack track, but it's coming out in a separate track. So this gives me so much flexibility for mixing, and I can still program all the beats like in one MIDI clip, and then mix it as like an individual track. So you see a lot of people like drag samples in, and I'm like, no, dude, don't do that. It's a waste of time. It's much easier to just put it in the MIDI roll. Okay, hi-hats. There's a pretty heavy sidechain on this, obviously. So as you can see, I mean, this is like pretty heavy. I kind of messed with the release just to get that right. Also, just a tiny bit of distortion. The mix is pretty low here. A lot of people use this plugin for like other stuff, but I love the distortion in it. I think it's great. Okay. So that's the drums. Let me see. I don't think I didn't even add anything to like the actual full compressed drum sound. This is pretty simple stuff. But okay, maybe I'll show you the actual opened MIDI clip. So as you can see, like I have my 3 kicks here. I actually ended up not using that snare. It doesn't sound very good. These hi-hats, and then some rim sounds, I guess, the 808 rim sounds. And then this one has like some extra, I think, offbeat hi-hats, yeah. And again, some of these I'll go in and like nudge them just slightly off the grid. It just gives it an extra groove. Speaking of groove, I actually have a, it's funny you're seeing all my files over here. This is like a mess right now. Oh, right, but Groove Pool. So, I'm basically pulling the MPC 55, I think, like swing. So it's just like a subtle swing. The offbeats just sound a little bit looser, a little bit better, you know. One thing I'll mention now is I have 2 returns. So this is pretty typical for me. I'll do this a lot. I'll use the Roland, the RE201 Universal Audio. They have a new version, but for whatever I just threw this one in here. I turn off all it's reverb only. I don't actually use any of the echo here. I just turn up the reverb and use that, and it's great. I love it. It's a great like tank reverb. And on the same level, I have on another return, I have the Lexicon 224 set to vocal plate, and then I raise the mid range like super long. So it has this. Here, let me show you. Just give you an exaggerated sample. It has a really long decay, and I love that. I use that on pretty much every track I ever make. It's just a great tool for like creating builds or like something like that, even though I didn't really do that here. Right here, let me try it, try to do it in real time. Yeah, it's not that noticeable, but you get the idea. Okay, yeah, I did mess around with a little bit of a vocal sample. I've looped a couple different sections. I added autotune, so it kind of like pushed it into key. I just thought it was a cool kind of moving type of sample thing. There's another one that's just shorter. See, once you add that lexicon, it's just like... I just like that piano sample. It was like pretty cool. I think I did a little bit of EQing on the pianos. Let me see if I had anything else. Yeah, cut out some of the lows and some of these. That's pretty much it. There's nothing like too crazy happening here. Okay, mastering chain. I love good hertz. I think they're great. Usually, like for RAC stuff, it's usually a lot more complex than this. But like my mastering chain has the wow control, which I love this plugin. Kind of lowered the analog noise gain, so you just get like that, but like minus 40 dB. And just a little bit of color saturation, just a little bit of that wow and flutter. You know, it's sort of emulating a 15 IPS, like a tape machine, which I love. And then I added a Faraday limiter on the top end. And so this isn't part of Ableton, but this is actually running into like one of my Shadow Hills dual Van der Graaf. You won't be able to see it, but it's just subtle compression, which I think is then going into another thing, which is then going into my recording computer, like my live streaming computer, which is how I'm recording this. So this actually isn't even like this isn't my normal computer that I use for this. So yeah, let me just play it once again, and I think that's everything. So. Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you next time. Thank you for having me.